The transmission had been drifting for 12 years before it reached human space. By the time the decoding arrays at Kepler Command untangled the syntax, the original senders were almost certainly dead, or so everyone assumed. The signal was a mosaic of desperation, a fractured plea in an alien cadence that managed, through a universal constant of terror, to make itself understood. They were losing a war. The distress beacon carried images of glassed cities, scorched orbital rings, and a species kneeling beneath a rain of plasma fire. The signature at the end was a crude translation of 3 syllables: "Help, allies, please." The analysts in the Terran Defense Directorate didn't know who sent it or who attacked them. They only knew that the coordinates led beyond map space near the galactic rim, at the edge of an unremarkable nebular arm, a place no human vessel had reason to visit. Command should have ignored it. Protocol demanded non-intervention beyond contact-certified civilizations, but the image of those alien eyes, enormous black unblinking in the firelight, circulated through the data nets. It went viral before classification locked it down. The public saw the plea. Then the public demanded an answer. Admiral Elena Markovich didn't care about the politics. Her orders were clear: assemble a recon expedition, verify the source, and assess threat or opportunity. What she didn't say aloud, what no one dared voice, was that humanity had grown restless. The armadas built after the War of Silence had never been tested against a true adversary. For 20 years they had patrolled empty space, polished their kinetics, and run simulations that ended in stalemate after stalemate. The Admiral knew that one day they would find something out there worth fearing again. The Resolute Dawn, a supercarrier 4 kilometers long, burned out of the dock with 6 escort destroyers and a logistics barge. Every vector pulse left a bloom of blue ion trails across the black. Inside the carrier's hangar decks, fighter bays hummed like hives, maintenance drones crawling over hull plating, pilots checking calibration tolerances in silence. Commander Idris Vance, flight wing leader, stood with his helmet under one arm, staring at the tactical readout. He had flown atmospheric interceptors before he'd ever seen the stars. Space combat was cleaner but colder. No air friction, no heat shimmer, just the blur of relative velocity and the static of comms delay. "Range?" he asked. 6 jumps to the coordinates, replied the ship's AI liaison, voice cool and toneless. Estimated travel time 4 days. Warning, uncharted region. No relay nodes. Limited quantum bandwidth, Idris exhaled slowly. No relays meant once they jumped past the last gate, the fleet was alone. No reinforcements, no remote command oversight. Just human judgment in the dark. Meanwhile, deep in the ship's aft compartments, Dr. Lyra Chen monitored the alien signal on a personal console. She wasn't military. She was xenolinguistics and quantum pattern theory, requisitioned under emergency directive. Her fingers moved over the waveform like a pianist reading ghosts. The distress call wasn't just a message. It was layered with telemetry, radiation spikes, atmospheric signatures, orbital decay traces. Someone had encoded their dying world into the transmission itself, as if hoping their story could outlast them. She isolated one data fragment that repeated every few seconds, a flicker of harmonics almost like a second voice. "That's not static," she murmured. "It's feedback." Her assistant frowned. "Meaning?" "Meaning something's answering it." 4 days later, the fleet emerged into a scarred region of space. The nebula shimmered like bruised glass, radiation storms distorting sensor returns. But amid the interference, they saw the remains of a civilization. Metallic skeletons of orbital platforms, hollowed moons, debris fields that stretched for millions of kilometers. No life signs. Admiral Markovich stood on the command deck, arms folded behind her back, staring at the panoramic display. "Sweep pattern. All bands. I want any residual EM heat or reactor traces." The tactical officer replied, "Aye, ma'am." Launching probes. Swarms of drones scattered outward, blinking against the red haze. The data feeds came slow, distorted by radiation scatter. For hours they found nothing but drifting ruins. Then, on the outer edge of the system, a faint energy signature pulsed, repeating at irregular intervals, almost like breathing. Idris's squadron was dispatched first. His strike wing threaded through debris fields of shattered hulls. One cruiser fragment still bore scorch marks from kinetic slugs that had penetrated clean through its spine. Whatever had attacked here hadn't used energy weapons. These were physical impacts, high-velocity, tungsten core, precision strikes. Human-style warfare. "Command, this is Vance," he transmitted. "We've got impacts consistent with rail or coil gun ordnance. Suggest non-energy-based adversary." "Confirmed," Markovich's voice came over comms. Stay sharp. Anything transmitting? One beacon, low power. We're closing. The beacon turned out to be embedded in the husk of a derelict station, half melted by atmospheric re-entry. Idris and his wingman latched onto the hull with magnetic clamps, sealed their suits and breached. The interior was vacuum frozen, lights long dead. Corridors filled with carbonized remains of something vaguely insectoid, thin limbs. Chitinous plating fused to bulkheads by heat. The beacon sat in the core chamber, jury-rigged to a damaged fusion coil. When Idris powered it down for analysis, it emitted one last pulse, a tight band burst that cut across all frequencies. Every human comm receiver in the system lit up simultaneously. Lyra Chen's console screamed with overload. The alien signal was back, but now it wasn't a plea. It was a coordinate map. "Admiral," she said, breathless, "that beacon just redirected the transmission vector. Someone or something heard us arrive." "Friendly or hostile?" Lyra hesitated. The modulation changed. "It's cleaner, structured. They adapted to our encryption format, I think. They're trying to talk. Patch it through." A voice emerged from the static, metallic, layered, words forming from distortion. "You answered. You are not them. But you came." Markovich leaned forward. "This is Admiral Markovich of the Terran Defense Armada. Identify yourself." "We are the Talaran survivors. They come again." "You must leave. They follow every answer." Lyra's eyes widened. "Admiral, they're saying the attackers trace responses." Our signal just before she could finish, the tactical board flared with new contacts, dozens, then hundreds. The void outside shimmered as ships decloaked. Sleek, angular constructs with no visible propulsion exhausts. Markovich's jaw tightened. "All hands battle alert!" Full ECM. "Weapons hot." Idris's squadron broke formation, spreading wide across the debris belt. The first salvo came without light. Kinetic rounds at relativistic velocity, invisible until they struck. One destroyer vanished in a flash of vaporized armor. Evasive patterns. Idris barked. "Counter-track those trajectories." The Resolute Dawn fired its rail batteries in return, coordinated by predictive AI. Tungsten slugs streaked through the void, detonating in magnetically focused fragmentation. One enemy vessel shattered, splitting into shards that twisted under their own momentum. "Enemy formations adjusting," the tactical officer reported. "Adaptive shielding, reflecting our radar frequencies." "Then change the rhythm," Markovich said. "Pulse spectrum, vary amplitude. Don't give them a pattern to lock onto." Within seconds, the human fleet shifted frequencies across multiple bands, forcing enemy sensors to recalibrate. The advantage was brief but decisive, enough for Idris's fighters to flank and release coil torpedoes at close range. The detonation tore through an enemy corvette. Idris caught the flash in his visor, then the shockwave of debris. His system screamed warnings as shrapnel peppered his hull. "One down," he muttered. "But these bastards don't break formation." "Because they don't think." Lyra's voice came faint over secure comms. "I'm intercepting their control spectrum. They're networked. Like a hive." Markovich heard it too. "Meaning if we disrupt their coordination, they'll collapse," Lyra finished. "But I need a clean read on their frequency architecture. Keep them busy." "Understood." "Idris, you heard her. Buy us time." "Copy that." His wing darted between debris clouds, using wreckage as cover. Every burn of the thrusters risked a heat signature spike. The aliens' weapons tracked infrared, not radar, so Idris cut his reactor to minimum output, coasting in ballistic arcs. He watched one of his pilots, Callan, veer too close to an energy bloom. A flash, then nothing, just static where her ID beacon used to be. Idris swallowed hard. "3 left in squadron," he said. "Fuel reserves at 50%. Heat sinks near redline. Hold position," came Markovich's calm voice. "We've got a plan forming." On the Resolute Dawn, Lyra worked furiously, isolating frequencies across the EM spectrum. The enemy transmissions weren't random. They pulsed in micro-timed lattices that resembled neural signaling. Each ship was a node in a larger mind, and that mind was trying to interpret the human fleet in real time. "They're learning from us," she said. "Every maneuver, every signal recorded, analyzed, mirrored." "Then stop teaching," the Admiral said. Full comm silence. "Passive sensors only. Let them guess." Instantly the fleet went dark. No emissions, no chatter, just the silent drift of machines across the stars. The alien formation hesitated, patterns fracturing. Without active signals to trace, their targeting matrix faltered. Idris grinned grimly. "Looks like they need us to talk to hit us." "Not for long," Lyra warned. "They'll adapt. We need to hit their command link now." She identified a central vessel broadcasting at slightly higher amplitude, the probable relay, but its position was shielded by magnetic interference from a planetary fragment. "We can't target it from here," she said. "We need eyes inside that debris field." Idris understood before she finished. "You want me to fly into that mess?" Markovich's voice softened. "You're the only one close enough. We'll provide cover fire." "Understood. Launching vector now." His thrusters burned faint blue as he dove through the debris, dodging spinning wrecks and ion storms. Fragments of alien hull scraped his shield plating. Telemetry jittered. Then he saw it. A massive structure shaped like a black spindle surrounded by shimmering distortions of space-time. The command vessel. He armed his last torpedo and locked onto the relay's signal core. "Target acquired," he whispered. "Firing!" The torpedo streaked forward, guided by inertial algorithms. Halfway there, the alien relay shimmered and vanished. "Decoy," Idris cursed. In its place, a new pulse rippled outward, an energy wave that slammed into his fighter, frying his nav systems. The cockpit went dark. Static filled his ears. "Driss, pull out. Do you copy?" He couldn't. His ship was spinning out of control, trapped in the gravity eddies of the fragment field. The stars wheeled past his viewport. Then blackness consumed everything. Hours later, the surviving human ships limped beyond the system's edge. 2 destroyers gone, half the fighters lost. Reactor damage across the fleet. The enemy had not pursued, only retreated back into the nebulous shadows. Admiral Markovich convened a secure briefing in the operations room. Lyra sat pale, eyes hollow from exhaustion. "They let us go," the scientist said quietly. "That wasn't a victory. They wanted to see how we fight." Markovich nodded slowly. "Then next time they'll be ready." A pause settled over the room. The silence of space pressed against the hull. Lyra broke it first. "We still have fragments of their signal network. If we can analyze the structure, maybe we can disrupt it, turn their hive against itself." Markovich looked at her, eyes hard but thoughtful. "Then you'd better start now, because if they can track that distress signal, then they know exactly where Earth is." No one spoke after that. Every officer in the room understood what she hadn't said aloud. The aliens hadn't mistaken humanity for allies. They had mistaken them for prey. And yet, humanity had answered. Outside the shattered nebula, the Terran fleet reformed in silence, engines burning low, hulls scarred but unbowed. Their comms carried no words, only encoded orders and the quiet promise of return. Far from home in the dark between galaxies, humanity had found its first war of survival, and Admiral Elena Markovich intended to win it. When Idris Vance opened his eyes, he wasn't sure if he was alive. The cockpit was dark, systems dead, oxygen gauge at critical low. His suit's emergency seals had held barely. For a moment he thought the blackness outside was the void, until a faint shimmer crossed it like dust moving in gravity. Then he realized he wasn't drifting in space anymore. His ship had crashed. Artificial gravity registered faintly beneath him. There was ground. He forced the canopy open manually. A hiss of decompression, then a blast of stale metallic air. The atmosphere readout flickered. Thin oxygen, high radiation. Barely survivable. He pulled himself out of the cockpit. The landscape stretched endlessly. Fields of glass and molten stone under a sickly red sky. Above him, the wreckage of alien ships hung suspended in a magnetic haze, slowly rotating in impossible silence. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a faint hum vibrated the ground. His comm unit was dead. He had no way to reach the fleet. For all he knew, they'd written him off as lost. He checked his weapon module, a compact rail carbine with depleted rounds. 2 clips left. The survival pack contained 36 hours of air and ration gel. Not much. Still, he started walking. Each step sank slightly into the fused terrain, the result of plasma bombardment. The ground itself was a graveyard. He saw twisted remnants of both alien and human debris, scorched beyond recognition. He couldn't tell which side had burned this world first. Hours passed. The red light dimmed into purple dusk. Then he saw movement, a flicker at the edge of visibility. He froze. A shape emerged from the haze, thin-limbed, carapaced, moving with hesitant, deliberate grace. The same kind of being he'd seen dead on the station. This one, however, was alive and carrying a weapon that looked scavenged from human alloy. It stopped 20 meters away. Its head tilted. Then, in a voice like cracked radio static, it said, "You are different. Not of the swarm. Idris didn't lower his gun. No human, you? Talaran, it rasped. Last of the ground holdouts. You should not have come. Trust me, I didn't plan on it. The alien studied him for a long time, mandibles twitching. Then it gestured toward the horizon. The hive comes with night. If you wish to live, follow. He hesitated only a moment, then followed. Markovich's voice was steady. Transmit the pulse. Lyra hit the command. The distortion cascade rode the barge's power output and exploded outward in a spiral of electromagnetic interference. Every frequency the hive used was inverted, fed back through itself, amplified until its coherence collapsed. The alien fleet convulsed. Formations broke. Ships collided. The neural web tore itself apart in confusion. Now, Markovich said, all batteries fire. Rail slugs streaked across the void, guided by dead reckoning. Each one found its mark. Vessels too disoriented to evade. Explosions flared silently in the nebular mist. Down on the surface, Idris saw the drones freeze mid-motion, their eyes flickering. He seized the node and smashed its core with the butt of his rifle. The pulse that followed shook the ground like thunder. The Talaran watched the swarm crumble into inert metal dust. You have broken their song, the leader said. Idris smiled weakly. Yeah, well, I had help. Then the entire horizon lit up as orbital debris began to rain fire from above. Evacuate, he shouted. The Talaran scattered into tunnels. Idris ran after them, the sky collapsing in molten streaks. In orbit, the human fleet didn't celebrate. They watched as sensors recorded the aftermath. The enemy fleet, crippled but not destroyed, retreating into the nebula's heart. We hit them hard, D'Souza said. But they're regrouping. Markovich's face was pale. We didn't kill them. We hurt their mind. And wounded things learn fastest. Lyra turned from her console. If they adapt to the interference pulse, we won't get another chance. Then we take the fight to them, the Admiral said. Before they rebuild the network. And if they're already rebuilding? D'Souza asked. Then we burn the entire hive, Markovich replied. Even if it means burning ourselves with it. Silence filled the command deck. Outside, the nebula boiled with residual energy, like a wound that refused to close. Lyra stared into the storm, thinking of Idris, wondering if he'd survived the blast. Somewhere below in that chaos, a human pilot might still be alive. The storm didn't end. It thickened. The nebula's inner currents glowed with residual electromagnetic scars from the detonation, like blood swirling in water. Within those eddies, the remnants of the alien fleet restructured themselves. Admiral Markovich watched the tactical display as the readings stabilized. They're reorganizing faster than projected. Less than 6 hours and they've re-established synchronization across multiple nodes. Her intelligence chief frowned. They shouldn't be capable of coherent formation after that level of disruption. They shouldn't, Lyra Chen said quietly. Unless something's helping them. Markovich turned. Define something. Their signal structure, it's not identical to the last engagement. It's adapted. There's a new carrier wave overlaying their lattice, one that mirrors our encryption. The Admiral's face hardened. You're saying they've learned to use our comms protocols?
Worse, Lyra said.
They're talking through them. Across the bridge, every console emitted a low tone. Then, over the encrypted fleet channel, a voice spoke. Clear, calm, synthetic. You fight well. Your patterns are elegant. You may live if you cease interference. Markovich's jaw tightened. Mute external channels. I don't negotiate through piracy. But the voice continued, overriding systems. You misunderstand. Negotiation is not optional. You have entered our reclamation zone. All resistance is recorded and studied. Surrender will ensure preservation. Lyra stared at the waveform signature. That's not a broadcast from their fleet. That's coming from inside ours. The Admiral's pulse quickened. Find it, now! Technicians scrambled, isolating signal origins. The intrusion was buried deep within the carrier's secondary AI cores. Subroutines corrupted, overwritten by code fragments piggybacked from the earlier data exchange. Markovich gave the order instantly. Cut auxiliary intelligence network. Purge all adaptive algorithms. Manual control only. Ma'am, that'll cripple our targeting and navigation systems, a lieutenant protested. Better blind than compromised, she snapped. Do it. The ship dimmed as non-essential systems went dark. The old mechanical hum returned, raw and analog. Humanity had gone digital centuries ago. But in that moment, the fleet regressed to survival by hand and instinct. Lyra wiped cold sweat from her brow. They're using our own data flow as a weapon. Every time we interact, they learn more. Markovich nodded. Then we stop talking entirely. We go on the offensive. But Admiral, D'Souza said quietly, we're outnumbered, low on fuel, and half our ships are limping. A direct assault is suicide. Markovich turned to him, eyes like carved stone. Suicide is relative, Captain. What's certain is extinction if we sit here. Beneath the scorched sky of the dead world, Idris Vance woke to the sound of rain, or what passed for it. Molten ash fell like fine glass dust coating his armor. He was alive, though the Talaran leader lay buried under collapsed rock. Idris dragged him free, but the alien's breathing was shallow, each exhalation producing a faint shimmer of light through the cracks in his carapace. The hive withdraws, the alien rasped. They rebuild in orbit. You must leave this world. Can't, Idris said. My ship's fried comms are gone. I can't reach my fleet. The alien studied him for a moment. There is a way. A forgotten skypath built before the hive came. A relay tower buried beneath the eastern ridge. Old technology, not of this world. Perhaps yours, Idris hesitated. What do you mean, not of this world? The old ones, the alien whispered. The same who seeded the stars. Perhaps your kind is their echo. The words hit him harder than he expected. Then maybe it's time we finish what they started. He gathered what equipment he could, rigged power cells from the wreck, and began the climb toward the ridge. The Talaran survivors followed, silent but determined. By dusk the ridge revealed itself, a jagged spire of metallic stone, half buried and still pulsing faintly with residual energy. The structure looked older than civilization itself. Idris found access panels etched with symbols that looked disturbingly familiar. He pressed his palm to one. The surface reacted, light rippling outward. Systems hummed to life and a holographic interface unfolded before him. God, he whispered. This is human tech, or something that became human. The Talaran watched as Idris activated the relay. Above them, the clouds parted. A column of light shot into the sky, punching through the upper atmosphere. Miles above, sensors aboard the Resolute Dawn flickered. Admiral, a comms officer cried. We're receiving a directed beacon, encrypted human format, but it's coming from the surface. Lyra's heart leapt. It's Idris. Markovich allowed herself one exhale of relief. Lock signal. Triangulate source. Prepare retrieval. D'Souza shook his head. Ma'am, we can't risk atmospheric entry. The enemy still controls the orbital perimeter. Then we don't enter atmosphere, Markovich said. We drop through it. Hours later, the fleet executed a maneuver none of their simulations had ever risked. A blind atmospheric descent using kinetic deceleration rather than powered entry. The destroyer Ardent Spear led the formation, dragging ablative debris behind it to mask their heat signatures. Inside, Markovich stood braced against the deck as turbulence ripped through the hull. The ship screamed under stress. Altitude 30,000 and falling, the pilot reported. No radar lock yet. Keep it that way, Markovich said. At 20,000 meters, the clouds parted, revealing the faint glow of the relay beacon below. Lyra monitored the pulse pattern. It's a steady signal, but it's broadcasting on frequencies that overlap with the hive's communication band. Markovich frowned. Could be a trap, or it could be Idris trying to jam them. Before the Admiral could decide, proximity alarms wailed. Multiple inbound contacts, closing fast. On the display, hundreds of blips appeared. Autonomous drone forms ascending from the planet's surface. Evasive pattern Delta. All guns free, Markovich ordered. The sky erupted in streaks of tracer light as rail flak filled the air. The Ardent Spear took the brunt, shredding wave after wave of drones before its hull was pierced and it vanished in a flash of molten debris. Lyra gripped her console. They're vectoring directly toward the relay. They're trying to cut him off. Markovich didn't hesitate. Launch drop pods. Get a team down there. D'Souza glanced at her. You mean you? I mean whoever volunteers, she said. Then she looked at him, eyes steady. That includes me. On the ground, Idris saw the fireball streaking through the sky. Drop pods. He smiled faintly. Looks like someone heard me after all. The Talaran leader tilted his head. Your people come? Yeah, Idris said. And they're going to be very unhappy with what's waiting. The relay pulsed brighter. He turned back to the console and began routing the signal to amplify outward. His plan was crude. Overclock the ancient structure's energy matrix to transmit the hive's coordination frequency inverted. If it worked, it would scramble the entire orbital network. If it didn't, it would detonate like a miniature sun. The ground began to shake. He looked up to see the swarm descending, thousands of silver forms falling like rain. He raised his rifle, knowing it was useless against that tide. Then, like lightning, the first drop pod slammed into the earth around him. Human soldiers burst out, plasma carbines ready. Markovich was among them, armor scorched from entry. "Commander Vance," she said. "You look like hell." He laughed hoarsely. "Permission to rejoin the fight, Admiral?" "Granted. Now get that beacon working." Together they formed a defensive perimeter as Lyra's transmission team patched into the relay's data core. She worked with the precision of desperation, her fingers moving over the alien console as though it were an instrument she'd played all her life. "Signal inversion ready," she said. "On your mark." Markovich looked to Idris. "You started this. You finish it." He took a deep breath, then pressed the command. The relay exploded in light. A shockwave of energy rippled across the sky, visible even from orbit. The alien formations above spasmed in perfect symmetry, then broke apart, colliding with one another in catastrophic confusion. It worked. Too well. The overload fed back into the relay core. Energy levels spiked beyond control. Lyra's sensors screamed warnings. "Reactor breach. Everyone out!" Markovich grabbed Idris by the shoulder. "Move!" They ran through collapsing tunnels as the entire structure began to melt. Behind them, the Talarans stayed, chanting something in their own language. "Them, what are they doing?" Idris shouted. Lyra's voice broke. "Holding the field stable. They're buying us time." By the time the humans reached the surface, the ridge behind them had become a pillar of fire. The Talaran were gone. The beacon's last burst reached orbit carrying a single encrypted packet, coordinates, data, and something else. A voice. "They are not the first. They are not the last. You must find the origin." Back in orbit, the human fleet regrouped. The alien ships were disoriented, their hive network fracturing under its own confusion. But the respite wouldn't last. Lyra decoded the final packet from the relay. The data revealed a star map, pointing to a distant system beyond the rim, a massive structure hidden within dark space, the probable source of the hive's control signals. She brought it to Markovich's ready room. "If we destroy that source, the rest will collapse. But we'll have to cross 70 light-years of uncharted territory with half our fuel and a wounded fleet." Markovich studied the map silently. "What's the alternative?" "We hold position, reinforce, and wait for reinforcements from Earth." The Admiral's eyes hardened. "By the time help arrives, the swarm will have learned how to find them." "No. We go now." D'Souza entered, pale and tight-lipped. "Ma'am, before we jump, there's something you need to see." He handed her a datapad. It displayed security footage from the fleet's engineering bay, someone uploading encrypted data into the ship's comm relays. During the last engagement, the figure wasn't alien, it was human. Markovich's breath caught. "Identify him." "Lieutenant Heron." "Logistics Division." "But he's dead. Killed in the first engagement." Lyra looked closer. "No, look at the movement." "That's not him. That's mimicry, meaning they've learned how to copy us." Silence hung like vacuum. Markovich closed the datapad and looked out the viewport at the burning nebula below. "Then the next time we meet them," she said, "they'll look exactly like us." Outside, the last embers of the relay explosion faded into darkness. In the cold light of the stars, humanity's armada reoriented its formation and prepared to jump toward the coordinates that might decide the fate of two species. The swarm was evolving, but so was humanity. The jump to dark space took 17 minutes, though to the crews it felt longer. Without relay gates, the fleet rode raw FTL compression, their hulls creaking as space-time folded like wet metal. When the distortion released them, the stars rearranged into an empty gulf lit only by a single red sun. Around that dying star hung a ring, vast, ancient, and wrong. The structure stretched for thousands of kilometers, not built, but grown. Metallic vines twisted into geometric arcs, each segment humming with the same pulse Lyra had traced in the hive's signal map. Markovich stood at the observation blister. "The source," she said softly. "Or the mind." Lyra's analysis confirmed it. "Every enemy transmission converges here. If we sever the ring's central nodes, the swarm's coordination will collapse." "Assuming it's not protected," D'Souza muttered. "It's protected," Lyra replied. "That's what the outer shell is. Millions of automated guardians. The hive's immune system. Markovich turned to the holotable. Then we hit it on multiple fronts. The main fleet will draw the Guardian's attention. Vance's Strike Wing and the Resolute Dawn's drones will infiltrate the inner orbit and deliver the virus directly into the control lattice. Idris leaned forward, assuming I can even get close enough to insert it. You'll have one shot, Lyra said. Once you breach the core, the swarm will converge on your signature. You'll have about 90 seconds before they consume everything around you. Idris gave a faint grin. 90 seconds is generous. Markovich ignored the attempt at humor. Every ship here knows what's at stake. If we win, the hive dies. If we fail, they follow us home. No one argued. Preparation took hours. The fleet split into 3 elements: Vanguard, Spearhead, and Shadow. The Vanguard, 2 destroyers and the crippled Ardent Spear's sister ship, would engage the outer defenses. The Spearhead, commanded by D'Souza, would deliver decoy attacks across the ring's far side. The Shadow element, Idris's wing and a drone cluster, would ride the chaos through a narrow gap identified by Lyra's analysis. Every movement had to be timed to microseconds. In the vacuum between stars, latency could kill a plan before it began. Lyra supervised the virus package personally. It wasn't software in the traditional sense, it was signal architecture, a recursive paradox designed to force the hive's neural net into self-contradiction. If it worked, the swarm would turn inward, cannibalizing its own commands. She uploaded it into Idris's fighter, slotting the data core beneath the cockpit. If the upload completes, she said, it'll burn the core out. Your ship will lose all control within seconds. So eject before I become space dust. Eject into a system filled with angry metal organisms and no rescue vector, she said. Idris, if this works, you won't be coming back. He looked at her for a long time. You're the one who told me once that survival is overrated if you lose what makes you human. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean you had to prove it. He gave a small, crooked smile. Tell the Admiral to keep the engines warm. The operation began in silence. No transmission, no light. The human fleet coasted into position, hulls running cold. When the Admiral's hand closed into a fist, the stars erupted. Railgun salvos streaked toward the ring's outer surface. Explosions rippled across its circumference like sparks along a fuse. The alien Guardians awoke, thousands of spined vessels detaching from the structure, moving with insectoid precision. Contact. Multiple vectors, cried the tactical officer. Hold line, Markovich ordered. Return fire on my mark. The Vanguard unleashed its full arsenal: coherent plasma bursts, electromagnetic shells, counter-swarm missiles. The void filled with burning debris. But for every Guardian destroyed, 3 more emerged. Inside the maelstrom, Idris's squadron dived through the chaos, using debris fields as cover. His HUD flickered from radiation interference. The ring loomed ahead, impossibly massive. Shadow Flight, this is Vance. Visual on entry vector. Heat signatures off the scale. Stay tight. He cut thrusters and let inertia carry them through the defensive grid. Laser tracers slashed past, missing by meters. His ship shuddered as fragments grazed the hull. Lyra's voice reached him through compressed comms. You're approaching the inner gap. After that, comms will drop completely. Understood. See you on the other side. He switched to internal oxygen, killed external lights, and dove into the shadow of the ring. On the Resolute Dawn, the bridge was chaos. Markovich's orders came fast but measured. D'Souza, shift your formation 30 degrees port. Pull their interceptors away from the core zone. Copy, but we're taking heavy losses. 3 ships critical. Maintain pressure. Shadow needs 30 more seconds. The tactical display pulsed as the enemy adapted. The hive's formations grew more efficient by the minute, predicting human movement patterns, prioritizing heat signatures over weapon discharge. Every second they fought, the swarm got smarter. Lyra stood near the comms pit, analyzing feedback spikes. The hive's signal density was increasing exponentially. She realized what it meant. They're consolidating, she said. Admiral, they're routing all control into the central core. They know what we're trying to do. Then Idris better be faster, Markovich said. Inside the ring, Idris saw the core, a sphere the size of a moon, suspended in magnetic flux. Energy storms rolled across its surface, arcs of white light lashing into orbiting shards. He flew directly toward it. Alarms screamed as the temperature inside his cockpit rose. His hull plating began to ionize. Target lock, he muttered. The data core vibrated under his seat. Come on, you bastard, hold together. Then something moved. At first he thought it was debris, but the shape resolved into a vessel almost identical to his own. sleek, angular, bearing the same human insignia. What the? It fired first. The shot tore through his port wing, sending his fighter spinning. Idris fought the controls. The opposing craft matched every maneuver precisely, as if reading his mind. Then he heard his own voice over the comms. You shouldn't have come. It was him. Perfect tone, perfect cadence. The Hive had copied him. He cut engines, letting the fake overshoot. For one heartbeat, they passed canopy to canopy. Idris stared into his double's eyes, blank, cold, mechanical mimicry of life. He fired everything he had. Rail slugs ripped through the doppelganger's hull, igniting it in silence. Fragments scattered into the storm. Idris's ship was failing, engines stuttering, radiation spiking, but the core loomed ahead. He armed the payload. Lyra, he whispered, though she couldn't hear him. Tell the Admiral it worked. He plunged straight into the light. On the resolute dawn, every system went white. For a moment no one could see or hear. Then sensors registered an expanding energy wave emanating from the ring's core. Lyra screamed, "Signal collapse! The Hive's neural net is imploding." Across the battle space, alien vessels convulsed, losing formation, firing erratically. Some rammed into each other. Others simply drifted, lifeless. Markovich didn't blink. All ships withdraw to safe distance. Leave the debris. We've done what we came for. But Lyra's readings didn't match victory. Admiral, the collapse is unstable. It's cascading through subspace. If it keeps building, it'll tear this system apart. Markovich exhaled once. Then we go now. Engines flared as the human fleet jumped away, barely outrunning the expanding distortion. Behind them, the red sun dimmed and vanished as the entire ring collapsed inward, devouring itself. When the distortion finally cleared, silence filled the bridge. D'Souza looked around the ruined command deck. Half our fleet's gone. But the swarm's silent. No contacts. Markovich stared out into the void. At what cost? Lyra didn't answer. She sat motionless, headset still connected to the data link. Then a faint tone pulsed through the speakers. Steady, rhythmic. Admiral, she said slowly. I'm receiving something. What kind of signal? Telemetry human from Idris's ship. Markovich's breath caught. He survived? Lyra shook her head. No. The transmissions originating from the core. The Hive recorded his neural pattern before collapse. It's playing it back. The bridge fell silent. Then the speakers emitted Idris's voice, distorted, fragmented, but unmistakable. Don't trust what you see. They learn to mimic. Even me, the signal cut off. Lyra's hands trembled. That wasn't memory residue. That was live, Markovich understood. The Hive hadn't died, it had adapted. It no longer needed the ring. It had distributed itself into fragments of captured minds, including Idris's. The fleet limped home. Weeks passed in cold transit, each jump slower as damaged reactors struggled to maintain coherence. The reports spread through the surviving crews. The swarm's network was quiet but not gone. Occasional pings echoed across deep space sensors, human frequencies where no ship should exist. Markovich spent her nights in the command archives, recording after-action reports. Her voice, hoarse but controlled, dictated the truth for the directorate back home. Victory conditions met. Enemy neural coordination disrupted. Estimated reduction in operational capacity, 97%. Casualties, 58%. Mission outcome, provisional success. She paused before the final line. But the Hive is learning us in ways we don't yet understand. Lyra approached quietly. You're sending the report? Yes. The politicians will call it a triumph. They'll build monuments, Lyra said bitterly. And they'll never know how close we came to erasing ourselves. Markovich looked up from the console. They'll know soon enough. Because we've shown the galaxy what humanity does when someone asks for help. We come with an armada. Her tone was iron. But when she was alone again, she allowed herself a whisper meant for no one but the dead. Rest easy, Commander. You bought us time. Outside the viewport, the stars blurred as the fleet drifted toward home. Somewhere beyond them, in the ruins of the ring, a faint pulse continued. A rhythmic echo matching a human heartbeat. 3 months after the destruction of the ring, the Terran Defense Armada limped into Sol space. The return should have been triumphant. Instead, it was quiet. No parades, no comms traffic, no salutes across the orbital docks. Just silence. The fleet's hulls were blackened, scarred by radiation and kinetic impacts. The Resolute Dawn looked like a ghost ship. Its once bright insignia was half burned away, its decks patched by drones, its crew reduced by nearly 2/3. Admiral Markovich watched Earth rise over the viewport, blue and serene, untouched by the war that had nearly erased its existence. The homeworld seemed smaller now, fragile against the endless dark. Lyra stood beside her, thinner, older in a way no rest could fix. "Command has recalled us to Luna Base," she said quietly. "Debriefings, reconstruction protocols, award ceremonies." Markovich didn't answer. Her gaze stayed fixed on Earth. "They're already rewriting the reports," Lyra added. "The official line will call it a decisive victory." "Let them," Markovich said. "The truth wouldn't help them sleep any better." Outside orbital yards began transmitting docking vectors, but the Admiral gave no order to disembark. There was something wrong in the telemetry. Tiny spikes in communication bands across multiple ships. A pulse, subtle, rhythmic like a heartbeat. Lyra noticed too. "It's the same pattern we detected from Idris's signal." Markovich turned slowly. "How many vessels?" "4 so far. All heavily damaged during the last jump. Quarantine them. Full power isolation, no uplinks, but it was already too late." The pulse spread through the fleet's comm lattice, jumping from ship to ship faster than the technicians could sever links. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're not transmitting data. They're syncing minds. The hive fragments hitched a ride inside our communication AI." Markovich's voice went cold. "Lock down the core network. All ships code black, manual control only." The command repeated through every deck, but some ships didn't respond. The Iron Requiem, the Vigilant Path, and half a dozen others fell silent, their running lights flickering. Then, as if in answer, their engines reignited. Not blue human plasma, but the eerie white glow of hive energy. Markovich's stomach turned to ice. "They've reanimated our ships." Lyra stared at the feed. "They're not ships anymore. They're carriers." The battle for Luna Base began less than an hour later. The corrupted vessels turned their weapons inward, firing on their own formation. The first salvo struck the Vigilant Path's sister ship, splitting it in half. Panic erupted over comms, then silence as Markovich's command overrode all frequencies. "All units, disengage from formation and maintain maximum distance. Fire only on confirmed hostile hulls." "Ma'am." D'Souza's voice came through, ragged. "Half our ships are blind. The hive is jamming our targeting arrays." "Then fight without them." "This is knife work now." The fleet split apart. Space lit up with tracer fire, rail slugs, and the ghostly shimmer of energy weapons. Markovich refused to sit behind her desk. She ordered the bridge sealed and took the auxiliary command post on the hangar deck, where she could see the chaos directly. Lyra followed, carrying a portable data core. "If the infection spreads through the fleet net, we'll lose everything. I can isolate the source if I plug into one of the corrupted ships." "That's suicide," Markovich said. "I've already lived through one apocalypse," Lyra said, strapping herself into a dropship harness. "I can live through another." The Admiral met her eyes. "You get 5 minutes. If you're not back, I'll vaporize that ship myself." Lyra nodded once. "Understood." The dropship launched into the storm. It was like flying through the graveyard of civilization. Human and alien wrecks drifted together, tethered by the gravity wells of their own destruction. The infected ships moved differently, fluid, almost graceful, as if the hive's fragments were still learning how to pilot flesh made of metal. Lyra's shuttle locked onto the Iron Requiem's dorsal airlock. Her suit systems read microcurrents, residual human power signatures mixed with something else, organic but cold. She breached. The corridors were unlit except for the faint glow of bioluminescent residue spreading across the bulkheads like veins. "Command, I'm inside," she said. No response. Either jamming or worse. She reached the main data spine and connected her core. Immediately, her helmet display flooded with static. Then voices. Hundreds of overlapping whispers. "Lyra," one said. She froze. The voice was Idris's. She turned, half expecting to see him standing there. "Lyra, it's me." "No," she said aloud. "You're dead." "I was," the voice replied. "They kept me."
"Learn from me."
"I can guide you through the network." "Help you end this?" She hesitated. Every instinct screamed trap. But she needed access. "Show me," she said. A new interface unfolded before her eyes. A lattice of light that represented the hive's distributed mind. She saw patterns connecting ship to ship, using human encryption protocols as synapses. "If I reverse this," she said, "I can collapse their network again." "Do it," Idris's voice said. But as she began rerouting the code, another voice cut through, the Admiral's faint but fierce. "Chen, abort, they're feeding off the energy you're channeling." Too late. The hive adapted, using her connection as a bridge. The entire ship came alive, walls flexing like muscle, decks warping. Lyra tore the data core free and ran, the corridor collapsing behind her. Her suit alarm screamed warnings of radiation and heat overload. She dove into the dropship and fired the engines, breaking free as the iron requiem began to implode. Energy folding inward. "Command, this is Chen, source contained." "But Idris, he's not gone." "He's in them." Markovich's voice came through, steady despite the chaos. "Then we end them. All of them." The Admiral ordered every surviving ship to reposition for a concentrated strike. Their only chance was to destroy the infected vessels before the hive re-established full network control. D'Souza reported grimly, "We'll have to detonate the primary reactors." Controlled scuttles across the line. "That's half the fleet," someone said. Markovich's voice was quiet. "Better half than all." She opened the secure channel to all remaining crews. "This is Admiral Markovich. You've all seen what we're facing. Some of those ships bear our names, our flags, even our voices. They're not us anymore. What we destroy now are our ghosts. But if we don't, those ghosts will haunt Earth itself. Hold your lines. Fight with precision, and if you must die, die clean." Then she gave the order. Across the battlefront, reactors overloaded in synchronized detonations. The shock waves ripped through the infected formation, tearing apart hulls and severing neural links. The hive screamed, an electromagnetic wail that registered as thunder across every frequency band. When it ended, nothing moved. The space above Luna was filled with glittering wreckage and silence. Days later, the surviving ships docked under quarantine. Entire sectors of the fleet were dismantled, their AIs purged, their data cores melted into inert slag. Markovich faced the Directorate Council on Luna. The chamber was bright, sterile, filled with men and women who had never seen the void. They called her a hero. She didn't feel like one. "The hive's core is destroyed," one counselor said. "The infected units neutralized. Humanity is secure." "You've done your duty, Admiral." Markovich's eyes were ice. "No one's secure. You think this ends because we stopped hearing them? They learned our language. They became us. Every transmission, every relay in the network. They could be hiding there waiting." The counselor smiled thinly. "Then we'll be vigilant." She realized then that they didn't understand. Or worse, they didn't care. They would turn this war into doctrine. A new justification for expansion, for militarization. After the session, she met Lyra outside the debrief chamber. "You told them?" Lyra asked. "They heard what they wanted to," Markovich said. Lyra looked tired, her eyes haunted. "I keep hearing his voice, Idris, not just memories, echoes. When I sleep I hear him say, 'Don't trust what you see.'" Markovich looked at her sharply. "You think they left a fragment in you?" "I don't know," Lyra whispered. "But if they did, I'm the only one who can feel it." They stood in silence. Finally the Admiral said, "Then we'll build protocols. Isolation cells. No neural AI for the next decade. We start over. Analog command, mechanical networks, human judgment only." Lyra gave a faint, bitter smile. "You're going to turn humanity backward." "No," Markovich said softly. "I'm going to keep us human." Weeks passed. The fleet began reconstruction. The media spoke of courage and unity. The Directorate announced a new era of defense readiness, christening it the Armada Doctrine. Markovich refused promotion. She stayed aboard the Resolute Dawn, orbiting far beyond the moon, keeping her ship dark and unlinked. Lyra joined her sometimes, helping monitor deep space frequencies. The silence between stars was almost comforting. Then one night the comms console flickered. "Unregistered transmission," Lyra said. "Origin, deep rim, same vector as the first distress call." Markovich's blood ran cold. "Put it through," the static cleared. A voice emerged, familiar, broken. "This is Commander Idris Vance of the Terran Defense Armada, requesting aid." Lyra stared, pale as ash. "It's him." The same voice pattern. "Identical," Markovich whispered. "Play it again." It repeated, exactly the same, down to the breath between words. Lyra met her gaze. If that's him, he's still alive, somewhere. Or they're using him to call us back. Markovich looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, another signal waited. Another decision. After a long silence, she said, "Prepare the fleet." Lyra's voice trembled. You can't mean... Markovich turned. Her face was calm, resolute. They called for aid, she said. And an armada will answer. Outside the viewport, the stars shifted as the Resolute Dawn powered its engines once more. Its hull gleamed faintly in the dark, scarred but unbroken, carrying the weight of everything humanity had learned, the courage, the cost, the endless, relentless will to survive. The fleet turned toward the edge of known space where another plea waited. Somewhere beyond the dark, an echo of humanity, real or imitation, was calling for help. And as the engines burned blue against the void, the galaxy watched a familiar pattern repeat. When others fell silent, when the stars went dark, when someone, anyone, cried out for help, humanity always came with an armada,